Hi guys, my name is Kenny Foster and I've teamed up with the CMA Foundation and students from the Harmony Project in LA to walk through the basics of songwriting. The CMA Foundation is committed to providing quality access to music education nationwide. The foundation believes that every child who wants access to music should have the right to it, and that every music educator should know that they're an invaluable part of their students' success. To show their commitment to this, Foundation wanted to create a resource and opportunity for students to learn songwriting in a way they might not normally have access to. I know in my formal music education, I was taught a lot of things, but never how to songwrite. Like I wasn't even sure that I could. Like I thought you needed like a certification or you had to pull a sword from a stone or something. It turns out it's actually a whole lot easier, but at the same time, it's a whole lot harder than all that. But you really only learn by doing, and it helps to have someone to show you how. Playing music, loving music, and learning music are amazing ways to engage the whole brain, but the critical analysis of breaking a song down and then creating one out of the knowledge gained is a whole different muscle, so to speak. The goal of this series is to provide a songwriting resource for music teachers, students, and organizations specializing in music education so that they can all learn about songwriting from someone who's made it their life's work. Look, we know during this time, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of complicated feelings, and we can't even go to therapy if we wanted to. I can think of no better catharsis than expressing myself through art, and in this case, the craft of songwriting. I hope you find it to be equally as helpful and leave the program understanding the basics, the rules, the craft, and ultimately the confidence to distill your world into 3 very, very important minutes. A special thanks to our partner, the Harmony Project, based in Los Angeles, that provide high-quality music instruction and social support to children year-round at no cost, and thank them for identifying these 3 future songwriters that are participating with me in these sessions. We'll be doing 5 different sessions all together. We'll be talking about the rules. What are people expecting from a song? What is a verse, a chorus, a bridge? What order do I put everything in? How long should it be? What tools should I be using to make all of this? Am I doing it wrong? How do I do it better? We're going to be talking about the work. What is a lyric? What is melody? What is meter? What is rhyme scheme? How do they all work together? How do I know that they're working together? We're also going to talk about the craft. Okay, so I've done a lot of work. I've put together what I think is a song, but it's not really fitting together. I don't think I can use it all. Do I have to follow all the rules? It's hard to make what I want to say rhyme. Can I just cram it in there? I might need some help with this. Maybe I should collaborate with someone. And then we're also going to talk about the reveal. Okay, I've got a song. I'm super excited about it, but how do I show it to friends and family members and teachers? How do I set up a time and place that they're receptive to it? How do I book a venue? Can I record this song? Can I perform it? Where? How? We're going to cover all of that stuff and more. But the first session today, we're just going to be talking about this thing called the big idea. But behind each and every song, the first thing most people ask me about songwriting is whether I do lyrics first or the music first. And one of the most unsatisfying answers I have to give is, well, that all depends really. Because sometimes a note or a chord progression can spark a concept, but sometimes a concept gives a voice to what the music should feel like. But they should both work together to serve this thing I call the big idea behind the song. If we start with the why, then everything else becomes a lot more clear. Look, it's a lot to cram into 30 minutes, but I think we're going to do it. So let's get started. Y'all, how are you doing today? Is everybody okay? Great. I'm getting some nods. The first thing that you need to know about writing a song is that you can. There's no qualifications. You are a living, breathing person with something to express. And if you add just a little musical talent into the mix and follow a couple of rules, you're going to be just fine, I promise. So Willie Nelson, a prolific songwriter in his own right, been doing it so long. He famously said, if you want to be a songwriter, you got to write songs. And the first 100 don't count. Now, you might be thinking like, freaking A, 100 songs, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm not saying that to freak you out. Like 100 songs, if anything, I want that quote to encourage you to go ahead and mess some stuff up. Like take some chances, see what works. Like no one's going to judge you as a songwriter based on the first couple of songs you ever wrote. And if they do, you can tell them, look, it's a work in progress. Okay. Like I'm a work in progress. They all are works in progress. The only time we really like enumerate that song is when we put it down as a recording or as a music video and we're like, okay, this is it. This is the song and this is how it is. And after it's done, I promise you, we're still going to want to make changes. So just don't worry about it. At some point, you're going to have to figure out that you want to do it. I was in the computer lab at my school and I was looking out. I grew up across the street from my high school. And so I could see my house from there. And my buddy of mine handed me a CD and I put it into my computer and I was listening into headphones. And there was this band, it was Caedmon's Call. You may or may not know them, but like I lost my mind. One of the songwriters in there, Derek Webb, just sang songs that hit me exactly where I was. And I knew like, I need to do that. Like that's important. And it's weird that it took me until around your guys' age. I was 17 before I'd ever discovered. I loved music. I mean, I was in and around it like we just talked about, but I'd never discovered something that hit me so hard. And that was the thing that I think I said, this is important enough for me to try to go after. Because when you grow up in the middle of the country, I don't know how it is for you guys in California, but like it, music wasn't a job. Like nobody I knew how to do it. Nobody could really even tell me how. I'd never took a songwriting class. No one had ever really taught me how, and it just became sort of a self-discovery kind of thing. So as I said before, like I started in church choir and school choir and show choir and musicals, and like none of those were like popular music, so to speak, the stuff that I was listening to, but the training that I got from each one of those was paramount. So I learned about melody and lyric and rhythm and meter and inflection and harmonizing and reading music and all the mechanics of music, right? And as soon as those become second nature, because you're in and around it so much, like that's it's a really good foundation for songwriting, because then you can stop thinking about the music and you start expressing with the music, and you don't realize what those repetitions and those scales and all of these things that you're doing are doing for you. They're making them second nature. So that I write on guitar, and I even usually when I write, I put it in an alternate tuning. So I'm in an open tuning so that I don't have to think about chord structures. I'm just playing and feeling, and I know where first and fourth and fifth is. Like I don't have to think about the musicality of it, and I can just purely express. You're going to find your things, that whether it's on piano or whether it's just in your head, and you need to find an instrumentalist that's going to help you do it. Whether it's on guitar and you need to show somebody a chord, or it's just like bumming around on it, whatever it is that gets you to that point, um, it's going to help once you get that big idea that we're getting around to, I promise. So it may not be cool necessarily to do choral music or orchestra arrangements and that sort of thing, but exposure to it's going to help you decide what you do and you don't like. So I used to try and rewrite parts in my choir class. So like I'd be like, no, I think the baritones should do this, and I'd get in trouble all the time. Like you can't just do that. But then in my mind, I was like, no, can't I? Like, isn't that what this is about? So to find out and listen to music that you don't even like, you can figure out what you don't like about it. Sometimes it's just instrumentation or a voice, but sometimes it's something else entirely. You don't know, but every single little bit helps. So in my mind, songs, the easiest way to put it, songs are stories. They establish a scene, they show obstacles or evidence towards a point that you're trying to make. So there's a rising action. You set a nice pad with that introduction, and then you tell people about it and you pull them into the story. And eventually that chorus is your climax, right? That's when all the exciting things happen. And then there's going to be a falling action. Sometimes that happens in the bridge, sometimes that happens in the outro, and you always come back to that chorus to bring everybody up here and then send them off on their way. And it's almost magic. Like the only thing that you get to do, you don't get to use video, you don't get to use images, you only get words, and then you only get music. That's it. And so those two things have to be so strong and so compelling to take somebody from where they are right now somewhere else. Like whether they're cooking or whether they're in their room or whether they're sitting on their couch or they're driving in their car. How are they thinking? What are they thinking about? Where do they need to go? And it has to happen through those two things. That's all we've got. We don't get to be flashy in other ways. So we have to make sure those are really, really good. So it'd be good to learn now before you get older and into the real world. And some of you guys maybe are already living in the real world, or it feels like it. You know what I mean? There's a system to absolutely everything that you're going to encounter in your life. Like you think you're going to have freedom as an adult, but oh man, like that freedom is going to be the scariest thing ever, because now there's nobody telling you what to do. You don't have a teacher, you don't have a parent, and now it's up to you. And sometimes that can get really confusing, and there's a lot of different things coming at you all at the same time. But like that's where storytellers come in. That's us. That's our job. So what we have to do is we have to figure out, we have to frame the world so that it's not so incomprehensible, so it's not so scary. You mentioned Stop This Train, Derek. Like we should not be strangers to the fact that we are getting older and we don't really know where this is headed. And he does it so magically. If you girls aren't familiar with the song, super great song, and he does it really, really well. Um, but in order to frame this world that we want to do in these songs, we have to understand it, and we have to live to understand it, and we have to be honest with ourselves and with other people. Like, we have to be curious and self-reflective and passionate about getting to the bottom of all of this, because that's what it means to be a songwriter, is to be curious about ourselves, to be curious about what's going on around us, and try to make sense of this. And the crazy thing is, by writing about it, by expressing it to somebody else, in the exchange of playing, performing, and writing music, we are framing the world, not only for the listener, but for ourselves at the same time. And that can be really, really helpful. So I hope that you guys see it that way. The way that I like to put it is, like, we have to take our fun really seriously. Like, if we take it really seriously during the creation of it, then when it comes to the performance or to the sharing of it, then we just get to live in it because we know we've done something well, right? It's a lot of work. Anybody who's done a musical or anything like that, like that's the same kind of thing. You have to do the rehearsal. You have to put in the time. But when you do, and you start seeing your songs affecting other people, that's when it gets really important. So let's talk about this, the big idea. Let's get into the songwriting besides the background. If I say the big idea, like, what pops into your head? Like if I was just to say that, can you think of any big ideas? You can unmute yourselves. Do you want to, I'll call somebody out. Hannah, you got something for me?
Sure. When I think of like big ideas, I just think of like, well, an English class all over again, but
Yes, I know it's scary. I'm sorry.
it's like big themes that are like relatable, I guess, that everyone can sort of connect to.
Good. Derek?
Um, I guess like the main point of the song, like the moment where it's like that like hits the most. I don't know how to describe it, but
No,
like the main,
you did it by
like,
not describing it, my friend.
yeah.
Exactly what you did. Angela?
I think of like the whole feel or like the vibe of the song, like
Okay.
the mood, like what that brings, like what that like is telling you, how that impacts you. Like that's the big idea.
Dude, perfect. You guys are like making my job so easy right now. They're going to think that like I coached you. So the big idea is actually a combination of a couple of things. Because the music tells you how to feel, and then the lyric is going to have to match that, right? Or the lyric is going to tell you exactly how to feel, and you got to make sure that you have matching. The only music I know of that doesn't do that is bluegrass. They talk about the saddest, most depressing stuff in the happiest way I've ever heard, and it's the only one that works. But like, if you're going to talk about dark, steal your soul kind of stuff, then like, you're going to want to do some heavy metal. But like, if you want to express how life is on the streets, then you're going to be doing that from your own personal experience in a way that takes the instrumentation that you're used to listening to on the radio or that floats down the street when you're walking. Like, that all has to work together in order to make the song. So, but the big idea, it is, you said it, going back to English course, it is the main theme. It's the thesis statement. Like, some of your writing classes probably did that. Your main idea. So your supporting paragraphs, your conclusion, that's a song. Like, what we're doing in our verses is we are setting up that main idea that's going to happen in that chorus. And that chorus is going to tell us that main idea so plain and so clear that we're going to know exactly what to come out of it. Like, you guys may or may not know of the idea of a hook. And it's a industry phrase, but people also sing about it. Yo, give them the hook, whatever. So sometimes that's a musical thing, and sometimes that is a lyrical thing. But usually it's both. And when you've got those two things built around this main idea, then you're going to know where to take your song. You know what the main idea is. Some of your journals may just be like stream of conscience, just writing as much and as hard as you can. But then at some point, you're going to have to figure out what are the morsels? What's the big idea? What can I build something around? Because at first, it's just going to be expression. And at some point, we're going to have to craft that big idea into a song. And we have to do that by following a few rules and by doing a few things and working on it probably a lot more than we really wish that we had to. But it seems like a lot to do for 3 minutes, but I think it's worth it. So sometimes, as I said before, like, the music inspires the lyric. And sometimes it's the lyric that tells the music what to be. But if those two things aren't working symbiotically, then you don't know what the big idea is. And the big idea is going to be askew and no one's going to know what your song is about. And I did that for years. So it's fine if yours doesn't get there right away, but I'm hoping to save you from having to do all of the stuff that I had to do, which was learn as I went along. So why do you want to write a song? Here's a couple of reasons that I threw down. I'll put it in the chat here. Maybe all you want to do is make people dance. Maybe all you want to do is tell people a story about yourself. Maybe all you want to do is explain something or express a feeling. Or maybe you want to ask questions. You're not looking for an answer. Maybe that's the point of the song, is just to ask questions to let other people know that it's okay to ask them. But also, if you're going to make people dance, you're probably not going to do a really slow ballad. You know, you're probably going to need to up the music. And you're probably not going to say things like, the hypotenuse of a triangle is the square of both of the equal of its sides. Like, that's not a lyric you're going to use. You're going to need to talk. You're going to need to go to the club. You're going to need to tell people where they're at or what it is that makes them want to get down. Like, no matter what it is, whatever that morsel, that big idea is, you have to serve it the whole way through the song so people don't get lost, so they know exactly how they're supposed to feel. Like one big idea, we're getting really low on time here, but so like one big idea, a lot of people would say 85% of songs are about love, right? But love is not the big idea. Love is just the overarching umbrella. The big idea is actually like the excitement about new love, or like a heartbreak of losing one, or pining for a love that you can't seem to reach. So like the idea isn't love, it's one of those other things, and it's highly, highly specific. And that's the important thing to get across. So it's weird to think of a big idea because the first thing you think of is this massive, overarching, relatable thing. But the way that we get people to relate to it is to get highly specific, which is absolutely crazy. So that's going to be a little bit of training your brain, or a little mushy in your brain. And that's really just going to start us here. I'm going to be honest, I have some homework for you guys before we get together next time. Ooh, but I promise that it's fun. Okay. So here it is. As you're listening to music in the places we've already talked about, whether it's in your room or in headphones or on your phone in the bathroom when you do at a dance party, or if it's while you're cooking, wherever it is, I want you to listen to the music that you always do normally. But what I want you to do is, as you're listening to each song, or if one sticks out to you, think about what the big idea is in that song. Just tell me what it is. What is it about? Who is it for? Why did they make it? How is it working? How is it serving it? The thing is, you might listen to a song that you don't think really makes sense, and you don't understand why people get it, or they dance to it, or they like it. Great. That's perfect. Maybe they missed on the big idea. Maybe they didn't get all the places that they wanted to do. So the important thing, and the thing that I want you to do, is keep listening to music, but you're going to listen to it just a little bit more critically. You're going to figure out what the big idea is. I want you to write those big ideas down, and I want you to bring them next time. And we're going to talk about some of those ideas, and we're going to even discuss one particular song that stuck out to you. And then you can tell me how you think that they did it, how you think that they served it. And so then once we try to figure out, like, a lot of songwriting at the beginning is inspired by what someone else is doing. Great. That's beautiful. That's what influencers are for. Doing something that we've heard before, something that we love. But eventually, 100 songs down the line, we will have learned how to make all of these things our own. We will have taken parts from each of the things that we like, or each of the things that we've learned. But we're a long way from that. So don't worry about that. Right now, let's just start with, as you're listening until our next episode, our next lesson, let's figure out what the big ideas are in songs, and what big ideas that we personally think are worthy of writing about. Because that's going to determine what kind of artist you are, what kind of songwriter you are. Because the thing is, maybe you're not into Fast and Furious, but also maybe you're not into like slow and boring. Like, maybe that's how you look at it. Like, you're going to find out, and you're going to determine it. And what's interesting is, you may think you're one way, and as you live a little bit more life, it may end up taking you another way. So it's important to be open to that, to know that all of these things around us and all of these ideas, they must have some merit, or they wouldn't have made it to where they are now. They wouldn't be so widespread. So let's find out what's good about it, what we like about it, or what we don't like about it, and figure out if we can narrow down what the big ideas to some of our favorite songs are. Okay, so we're doing that. In our next episode, here's the thing that we're going to do. We are going to talk about the rules So the hard and fast structure that nearly every popular song follows. Okay, so we're going to talk about verses. We're going to talk about choruses. We're going to talk about pre-choruses. We're going to talk about bridges. We're going to talk about interludes. We're going to talk about intro, outro. We're going to talk about how these big ideas determine what happens in each of these song sections. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring us a song. We're going to listen to it together, and then I'm going to break it down. Not only starting with the big idea, but then I'm also going to break it down into the smaller pieces of the verses, the choruses, the bridge, so we can get a little more structural idea of what makes a song and how to build one. And this particular song, I think, is a perfect example of a song in general. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, so you can't look ahead in your reading. Okay. So remember, homework, listen for the big ideas. And but the first thing is enjoy your music, but always ask the question, why? That's going to help us figure out the big idea behind your favorite songs so that you're going to figure out what your own big idea is to write about yourself. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Hugs and kisses. Thank you guys for your time. And I will see you again next time. And I can't wait to do more of this. The CMA Foundation is a national organization who's committed to providing quality access to music education. And with the recent impact COVID-19 has had on our schools, the foundation wanted to create a resource and opportunity for students to learn songwriting in a way they might not normally have.